Hi. It's almost 1 in the morning and this is way past my bedtime. I was finishing a chem final. I finished with an A, by the way. And now I am doing my Bible study before bed because we have to. And there's just one little concept that I want to mention. I'm in Matthew right now and I'm just realizing something that I think might help people who become uncomfortable with the idea of fearing the Lord. Because I know that this was a big turnoff for me, right? Like, how could I put my faith in a God that tells me that I should fear him? It feels very negative. It feels very scary, right? Well, the first thing to that is that if he really is the God of this universe, then you kind of have no choice but to follow his rules. And to not follow his rules is to be out of touch with reality and life itself. But then secondly, this idea of fearing the Lord, well, in let's go to Matthew, where am I? Matthew 21:45. Yeah. So this is Jesus talking about the parable of the tenants. Later at the end of this part of the chapter, it says, when the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they perceived that he was speaking about them. And although they were seeking to arrest him, they feared the crowds because they held him to be a prophet. So instead of arresting him, they feared the crowds that were in favor of him, and decided that, or thought that he was a prophet, and decided that they were going to make a decision based on who they feared. Earlier in 21:25, it says, the baptism of John, from where did it come? From heaven or from man? And they discussed amongst themselves, saying, if we say from heaven, Jesus will say to us, why then did you not believe him? But if we say from man, then we are afraid of the crowd. So essentially, Jesus asked the Pharisees a question, and they decided that there was no winning answer for them, even though they knew what the right answer was. So instead of fearing Jesus and fearing the Lord, they instead chose to almost like not answer the question. So fearing the Lord is actually a wonderful thing, because if you think about fearing something, if I were to have like a fear of heights, right? I will be giving heights, tall, high places, a power over me, because if I'm fearing something, then I'm relinquishing a part of myself, my decision making, my whatever, to that thing that I fear. If you fear death, then you're living for death. If you fear Satan, then you're going to make decisions based on what he wants you to do and what's his version of right or wrong. And so you're going to be living under his rule of thumb. But when you fear the Lord, you're putting the power back in the hands of the person, the thing, the force, the entity, the God that has the power anyway. So fearing the Lord is just saying, oh, I know that I'm a sinner and I don't want to give my sin more power. I don't want to fear things and make decisions based out of fear of what could happen or whatever. I'm going to give my fear to the all-powerful, all-knowing God who has all the power anyway. So it's essentially just putting it right back to where it belongs. For people with anxiety, this might help. I know that anytime I find myself getting anxious, especially socially anxious, like I could have a whole monologue ready to go in my head, and the second that I'm face to face with the person I'm talking to, it goes out the window. I'm like, or when there's something that maybe I want to do, but then my head starts thinking of all the reasons I shouldn't and all the things that could go wrong, whether it be something realistic or very unrealistic. But when that anxiety starts churning for me, I have gotten into the habit of immediately correcting myself and saying, what do I have to be afraid about? What do I have to be anxious about right now? Because it's always in God's hands. So the second that I'm fearing something that isn't God, I'm putting power into that thing and I'm taking it out of God's hands. Where when I put the power in God's hands, I have zero things to fear because it's where it belongs. And I also can trust that no matter what happens, there is eternal life waiting for me. And no matter what happens, it won't be a centimeter, a millimeter out of line of God's plan for me. And it makes perfect sense why fears are something that humans try to conquer, because when you fear things of this world, then they are bad for you, which is why when you overcome fears, You feel accomplished, you feel better, you feel more free. I have a fear of roller coasters. It's a justified fear. I will literally vomit on everyone. And I was just so moved and so in love with the country of Switzerland when I was visiting that I literally looked up helicopter skydive and then I did it. I jumped out of a helicopter like a psychopath. But conquering that fear was like literally the most blissful feeling I've ever experienced outside of God. And so when you conquer worldly fears, it feels great. But when you begin to fear the Lord, you put your fear, the emotion of fear, in the right place, then it clicks into place and it actually doesn't feel like it's weighing you down, like it's giving you anxiety, like other fears of the world make you feel. Give me some grace, okay? It's 1 a.m. I'm very tired. But when you have your fear in the right place, it actually turns into freedom. It actually makes you more at peace, feeling more secure, because your fear is in the power of an all good, all loving God who writes the rules. And for all you believers or Christians, Satan is literally the last thing that you should ever fear. Evil in this world is the last thing that you should ever fear. Keep fearing God, because Satan is like a little powerless parasite, okay? He has no power. He can't do anything without the authority of God. There is nothing to fear in Satan. If you fear Satan, you're giving your power to Satan, and that's exactly what he wants, because he's powerless on his own. Good night.